Hitler was born in Braunau in Austria on April 20th, 1889. As a child, Hitler was hostile towards his strict, authoritarian father and strongly attached to his indulgent, hardworking mother. Her death from cancer in December 1908 was a shattering blow to the adolescent Hitler. As a teenager, Hitler left school at the age of 16 with dreams of becoming a painter. So in October 1907, Hitler left home for Vienna, where he would remain for the next 6 years. In Vienna, he acquired his first education in politics and picked up the stereotype of obsessive anti-Semitism. In May 1913, Hitler left Vienna for Munich, and when war broke out in August 1914, he joined the 16th Bavarian Infantry Regiment, serving as a dispatch runner. Hitler proved to be an able, courageous soldier and received the Iron Cross for bravery. In the war, Hitler had been wounded twice, and once he recovered, he became enraged by the abortive November 1918 revolution in Germany, as well as the military defeat. Hitler was now convinced that fate had chosen him to rescue a humiliated nation from the shackles of the Versailles Treaty from the Bolsheviks and the Jews. At the end of World War I, Hitler had been a jobless soldier drifting around Germany. In 1919, he joined a struggling group called the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party. Hitler proved to be such a powerful public speaker and organizer that he soon became the party's leader. Calling himself the Father, he promised he would bring Germany out of chaos.
Den deutschen Menschen erziehen und festigen und auf ihren Schultern tragen. Den deutschen Staat, das deutsche Reich. Die Jugend ist unverschrieben mit Leibesfehlen.
Hitler focused his propaganda against the Versailles Treaty, the Marxists, and his number one enemy, the Jew, who were responsible for all Germany's domestic problems. Hitler then came up with the concept of the anti-Semitism of reason, which he said must lead to the Semitic combating and elimination of Jews' privileges, and the ultimate goal must be the total removal of Jews. Then go. In order to accomplish this task, Hitler had to gain power first, so on November 8, 1923, Hitler stormed into a beer hall in Munich and firing his pistol into the ceiling. Hitler shouted out that he was heading a new provisional government which would carry throughout a revolution against Red Berlin. Hitler then marched through Munich at the head of 3,000 men, only to be met by police fire, which left 16 dead and brought the attempt to overthrow to an end. Hitler was arrested and tried on February 26, 1924. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in Landsberg Fortress. Hitler was released after only 9 months, during which he wrote Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. In his book, Hitler set forth the basic beliefs of Nazism that became the plan of action for the Nazi Party. Nazism was based on extreme nationalism. Hitler, who had been born in Austria, dreamed of uniting all German-speaking people in a great German empire. Hitler also wanted to enforce purification at home. In his views, Germans, especially blonde-haired and blue-eyed Aryans, formed the master race that was destined to rule the world. Inferior races such as Jews, Slavs, and all non-whites were deemed to fit only the Aryans. Hitler also believed that for Germans to thrive, they needed more living space for all its citizens. One of the Nazis' aims, as Hitler said in Mein Kampf, was to secure for its German people land and soil which they are entitled to on this earth, even if it could only be accomplished by the might of a victorious sword. The Great Depression helped the Nazis come to power. Due to war debts and dependence on American loans and investments, Germany's economy was hit hard. Many men became unemployed, and many of these men joined Hitler's private army, the Stormtroopers. Germany's people were desperate and turned to Hitler as their last hope.
Austria was Hitler's first target. The majority of Austria's 6 million people were Germans who favored unification with Germany. On March 12, 1938, German troops marched into Austria unopposed. A day later, Germany announced that its union with Austria was complete. Hitler then turned to Czechoslovakia. About 3 million German-speaking people lived in the western border regions of Czechoslovakia called the Sudetenland. Hitler wanted to annex Czechoslovakia in order to provide more living space for Germany as well as to control its important natural resources. Hitler charged that the Czechs were abusing the Sudetenland Germans, and he began massing troops on the Czech border. Early in the crisis, both France and Great Britain promised to protect Czechoslovakia. Then, just when war seemed inevitable, Hitler invited French Premier Eduardo Daladier and British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain to meet with him in Munich. When they arrived, Hitler declared that the annexation of the Sudetenland would be his last territorial demand. Hitler now turned towards Poland, and like Czechoslovakia, Poland had a sizable German-speaking population. In the spring of 1939, Hitler began his familiar routine, charging that Germans in Poland were mistreated by the Poles and needed his protection. Tensions rose over Poland. Stalin surprised everyone by signing a non-aggression pact with Hitler. Once bitter enemies, on August 23, 1939, Fascist Germany and Communist Russia now committed never to attack each other. Germany and the Soviet Union also signed a second secret pact agreeing to divide Poland between them. After the fighting was over and by the end of the month, Poland had ceased to exist and World War II had begun. Following the attack on Poland, on April 9, 1940, Hitler launched a surprise invasion on Denmark and Norway in order to protect the freedom and independence of those countries, but in truth, Hitler planned to build bases along the coast to strike at Great Britain. Next, Hitler turned against the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg, which were overrun by the end of May. The first phase of World War II was dominated by German blitzkrieg tactics, sudden shock attacks against airfields, communications, military installations, using fast mobile armor and infantry to follow up on the first wave of bomber and fighter aircraft. Poland was overrun in less than 1 month, Denmark and Norway in 2 months, Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and France in 6 weeks. After the fall of France in June 1940, only Great Britain stood firm.
The Battle of Britain, in which the Royal Air Force prevented the Luftwaffe from securing aerial control of the English Channel, was Hitler's first setback, causing the planned invasion of the British Isles to be postponed. Hitler turned to the Balkans and North Africa, where his Italian allies had suffered defeat. His armies rapidly overrunning Greece, Yugoslavia, and the islands of Crete, and driving the British from Cyrenaica. Allied bombing began to have a telling effect on German industrial production and to undermine the morale of the population. The generals, frustrated by Hitler's total refusal to trust them in the field and recognizing the inevitability to defeat, planned together with small anti-Nazi resistance inside the Reich to assassinate the Fuhrer on 20th of July 1944, hoping to pave the way for a negotiated peace with the Allies that would save Germany from destruction. The plot failed and Hitler took implacable vengeance on the conspirators. As the Red Army approached Berlin and the Anglo-Americans reached the Elbe on March 19, 1945, Hitler ordered the destruction of what remained of German industry, communications and transportation systems. He was resolved that if he did not survive, Germany too should be destroyed. On April 29, 1945, he married his mistress Eva Braun and dictated his political testament, concluding with the same monotonous, obsessive vexation that had guided his career from the beginning. Above all, I charge the leaders of the nations and those under them scrupulous observance of the laws of race and to merciless opposition to the universal prisoner of all peoples, international jury. The following day, Hitler committed suicide, shooting himself through the mouth with a pistol. His body was carried into the Garden of Reich, transported by aides, covered with petrol, and burned along with that of Eva Braun. With his death, nothing was left of the greater Germanic Reich, of the tyrannical power structure and ideological system which had devastated Europe during the 12 years of totalitarian rule.
He deluded himself that mythical armies were on the way and victory was still possible. In the Chancellery Gardens, he inspected the only new army he could raise, an army of children. On these 14-year-olds, Hitler refused to leave Berlin. He was now frenziedly issuing orders to his crumbling armies from the bunker, his headquarters deep below the Chancellery. Utterly oblivious of reality, by the 28th of April, the Russians were only a few blocks away from the Chancellery. Hitler realized at last that the end was inevitable. At the last minute, he and Eva Braun were married in the bunker. She took poison, he shot himself. And to prevent his body falling into the hands of the Russians, he ordered it to be burnt in the Chancellery grounds. April 30th, 1945.
Nothing is more certain than that every trace of Hitler's footsteps, every stain of his infected and corroding fingers